are settling as Bunbury behind the ball.
That puts us at 82, 49, and 8 on the season, hitting at a 62.5% clip.
Back-to-back golden boots. That's 3 in a row for me. Free, too, man. Like, not a dime. That's called being for the people.
It's over! The Columbus Crew, 2023 MLS Cup champions!
All right, we're back. Here we go. And back for week 7 here at the MLS Live podcast on Sports Prophet TV. As always, I am Cooper, a.k.a. the Sports Prophet, here with my co-host Garrett at Just Some Footy on Twitter. So we'll kick off the show, take care of a little housekeeping. Obviously, crushed it for 4 weeks straight up until last week. Had a down week for sure. But I'm going to be honest, and I mentioned it on Twitter. I feel like the only thing that could have slowed us down last week was variance and was, a couple of bad beats. And we had our fair share of bad beats kind of all at once last week. And if you follow the show, we have no problem admitting like, we were off on this one, bad read here, bad read there. But man, we had our fair share of bad beats, some red cards, some weird injury news, some late stuff, some early goals with no late goals. Just one of those weeks, right?
Yeah. I mean, my reads just weren't strong enough. Like if I'm just being honest, like it wasn't good enough last week. And unfortunately, when you have, it really sucks when those bad looks or those bad reads or the bad beats all just seem to come at once, right? And so, like, that's one of, if not the worst show we've had. So, only way to go is up. I mean, like, as far as as I see it, the losses, L's are going to happen, right? Like, you just got to keep churning. So I'm not sweating it. Like I said, we had 4 solid weeks before then. So you just try to have more good weeks than bad weeks. Like that's ultimately the goal, right? Like,
yeah, that is the goal. And long season, I think I remember, I want to say like 6 or 7 weeks, maybe even a little more into the season last year. We were somewhere like around break even, maybe a little underwater. And folks were chirping and you know how it gets, you know how people are. If you're on social media, you're not talking to somebody in person. So it's real easy to say, to talk your stuff and chirp a little bit. And then we ended up having a historical season, almost 64% last year. So, like you said, man, we're going to stick with it. We're going to continue to put the work in, do this show early in the week for everybody to continue to get that CLV. Saved a ton of money and a couple of spots on CLV because they ended up being losses. And that's what CLV is really good for, is inevitably, if you have 35, 40% of your bets are going to be losses. If you're really good, you're going to save a ton of dollars on the cents with the closing line value, right? So we're going to continue to do that for you guys. And hopefully bounce back this week and get back on the winning ways. Four winning weeks so far, just the 2 losing weeks, the first week of the season and then last week. So we're excited to get back to it. And absolutely, Kirk, thanks for tuning in as always, buddy. All right, well, let's jump into it real quickly. Going to plug the sponsor, Odds Jam, new sponsor of the show. These guys are awesome, really badass platform over there. This is a betting tools platform. So these guys offer plus EV tools. They offer, from what I've seen, the best arbitrage tool in the industry. I've been using it on a daily basis. I wanted to show you guys what the live betting arbitrage screen looks like because, goodness, I mean, just finding some ridiculous returns on the live betting platform. And this one is, it shows you the books, Pinnacle and PointsBet there. The live betting screen does a really good job of finding breaks in the game or the match. Like this is a tennis match, for example. So this was a break in the game going into set 3. And look at the discrepancy there on the over 29.5 and the under 29.5 total points, you're guaranteeing yourself, because of the plus money on both sides of the over under, either 172 or 175 or $180 in profit with this arbitrage tool. And I saw one that was like a 48% return. There were two books that I didn't have access to, so I didn't want to use that as the example. So I tried to use one that more people may have access to. But yeah, the arbitrage tool has been really great. If you're interested in that, I put the link in the description of the video to Odds Jam, and you can use my promo code PROPH 35 for 35% off of that arbitrage tool and the plus EV package, all that good stuff. So yeah, but if you have any more questions, just DM me on Twitter, or you could even respond to the video, and I'll try to get back to you guys. But other than that, let's hop into it. We got games to talk about. And first on the docket is a 2-match parlay. Garrett, this is yours.
Yeah. So I tried to, I don't love this slate this week, right? Like, this isn't my favorite MLS slate of the season so far, easily. And so I'm trying to find some stuff where a little easier, like go lighter when I don't like it. But this is a play that I couldn't stay away from. It was two teams on the road that I was already looking at, as far as like, okay, they might represent a little value. Where can I really pin down how I want to approach them? And it's going to be Charlotte going to New England, and then Philly going to Nashville. And I'm just going to take Charlotte and Philly to score as a parlay. I'm getting it like, I think, minus 124, somewhere around there, a couple hours ago. So I just need Charlotte to score, just need Philly to score. And in a nutshell, I'm just getting two of the three worst defenses and expected goals against, and Nashville, surprisingly, and New England. And so they're making their two scores, since both these teams are on the road. A decent parlay price. I'll try to keep my parlay price around minus 350 or less. And both of these were better than that. And so I'm looking at Nashville, who, man, dude, 1.9 expected goals against a game right now this season. Like, I know they missed Zimmerman, but that defense is a mess right now.
Mm-hmm.
Teams are not as scared of them as they have been in the past, as far as defensively, and which is surprising, because I would think Nashville has better weapons now to be able to counter. So I thought teams would take a little more caution, not one to get caught out. No, man, Nashville's just letting everything in right now. It's not good. Now, a bulk of that did come against LAFC, obviously. But I mean, I've watched this team every week, and the defense hasn't looked good. So the 1.9 expected goals against, while that number is surprising, it matches the eyeball test right now. So that's Philly going to Nashville. We know Philly has Carranza, Gazda. We know that offense. They can score. They're sitting at 1.86 expected goals a game right now, which is great. And then you look at Charlotte going to New England. New England is a team that I've just been completely wrong about, mainly because the goalkeeping is not saving them anymore. And that team just isn't as good as we thought on paper. The midfield especially is a mess. Anyways, though, Charlotte, with only one designated player, is still sitting at 1.57 expected goals a game. Abada, their second DP, he went 30 minutes in his debut. So I expect more time here. And so, yeah, if at minus 124, minus 125, somewhere around there, two road teams in excellent spots to score. And so, yeah, that's just an easy, dip the toe in to the slate kind of parlay for me.
Yeah. So one more thing to mention about Charlotte here, like you said, Abada, I don't know how you pronounce his last name, the Israeli guy. That's big, him getting some run, because that means he probably comes in and starts. Copetti also got some minutes at the end of that game, which he's kind of been battling injuries. So if they could get those two guys back in attack, like,
he's also been battling being bad.
I like Copetti, but I get it. I'm willing to give him a little more leeway.
I mean, Dean, I had to have some faith in him, because Dean didn't ship him out, right? Dean
Right.
came in and shipped out everyone else.
Yeah.
So he kept Capetti. So obviously there's got to be at least a little something there.
Yeah, I like him. He's shown some flashes, but maybe getting those two guys out there together, you never know. I like the way the team has looked under the new manager. They've been a little more solid defensively than I expected them to be, but um, I'm cool with the New England fade right now against almost anybody. So
Well,
let's
and then New England, you got to think now. I don't know what Porter's going to do this weekend, right? After just getting destroyed for nothing in CONCACAF Champions Cup. I mean, you're pretty much done, right? Like you have to go and win by 4 goals in Mexico. Like that's absolutely not happening.
no.
So I don't know how they approach this game. If they rotate and save legs for the Tuesday trip to Mexico, or I mean, like because you've got guys that you've got to give rest here, right? They went full starters Saturday and Tuesday. So here we are on another Saturday, Tuesday. You got to rotate somewhere. And so if they choose, the league match to rotate, then yeah, this is even better.
Yeah, that would be awesome. You got to think they're not just going to totally give up. So I bet they rotate as far as giving up on the second leg. I know it's obviously a tall task to say the least, going down to Mexico, but yeah, hopefully we get some rotation. Even if they don't, they still suck. They've still been the worst, the worst defensive team in MLS. So, and then on the other game, yeah, Nashville looks a little different. We've got some real. I don't know if I should call it like changing of the guard, but we've got some teams this year that just from last year to this year, without changing a ton of personnel, they just look different, including Philadelphia, including Seattle, who we'll talk about later. But there's been some of that this year. But yeah, we finally got my ticker going there at the bottom. So just to reiterate this one, it's Charlotte to score a goal and Philly to score a goal. Put those two together, get you a parlay, get you a win to start off the card. All right, on to our next one here. This is going to be my game. And if I had told myself or told you before the season started, yeah, like week 7, I'm going to be on Seattle and Montreal, both teams to score, I wouldn't have believed myself. It just like I hardly believe myself now, to be honest with you. It just feels weird. This was a slate in general that I had a ton of leans. I had a ton of games that I almost played, and I just didn't quite feel right because this week is kind of challenging, to be honest with you. I know you mentioned that at the beginning, but this is kind of, we got some tough matchups. All right, so the guy for Montreal that came over from Argentina, I'm trying to see how to pronounce his name. Cocaro, I think. I'm gonna guess that's how you pronounce his name. He's actually Uruguayan, but he played in Argentina. He has the 3rd most expected goals in Major League Soccer right now, and he's only played like 230. He's played like, yeah, I think like 230 minutes. For comparison, Buanga, who has a similar expected goal total, and he's played 400 minutes. So this guy really is creating chances and getting in goal scoring positions. We've seen Montreal go and score goals. I mean, they score 3 on the road at Chicago and still lose. They score 3 on the road at Miami and win. Score 2 on the road at Dallas, who's kind of a defensive team. And then Seattle, like I mentioned a second ago, they just look different. Like this is not the same Seattle setup. João Paulo, who's so important for that defense, there as a defensive mid, is nowhere to be found because of the injury. He hasn't even been spotted on the bench this year. And Seattle's like middle of the pack in expected goals allowed. This is a team that's usually like top 3 in that category. So because of that, they've had to open it up a little bit. And Seattle's actually been creating some chances in attack the last couple of games. So instinctually, like I'm nervous because I am not used to backing teams to go to Lumen Field and score goals. Like that is something you just almost don't do. And I don't know if I've done it much, if any, the last 2 seasons, handicapping Major League Soccer. But it's a new year. I'm trying not to get stuck in history and all this stuff, right? Like because teams change. So I like the price here. I'm going Seattle, Montreal, both teams to score. And I know it feels a little weird, but I'm rocking it.
Yeah, no, it feels weird, for sure. Um, I I can't trust Seattle right now to do either or
Right.
because I don't see. I mentioned this last show. I don't see how they continue that 4-4-2. They're just so susceptible on defense in that formation. It doesn't work, in my opinion. I mean, clearly,
Yeah.
you look at how many goals they've scored. Now, scoring goals is always going to be a problem for Seattle. You look at last year, they were what? They were a top 6 side in the league, and I think we're mid-table in goals scored. They don't have elite scoring. Rui Diaz isn't that dude anymore. Jordan Morris has never been an elite goal scorer. They just don't have it, and so I'm while they create chances, I just it's hard for me to trust Seattle to do anything, right? Good or bad.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair to Montreal striker, he has 3 goals. 2 of those are penalties. So that is going to bump up his expected goals quite a bit.
Right.
I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's great. I just think Montreal are just going back to a Nancy like ball, right, in that
I agree.
system. And
Yeah.
and you don't have to have elite talent in that system to give teams problems. Um, and they've been okay on the road this year, compared to other teams so far this season. So I like Montreal, and I think if Montreal scores, obviously I think your best bet is Montreal scoring first, and really push Seattle out, push Seattle to score,
Right.
because I think Seattle can let one in anyways. Um, but it's a weird slate, and so weird slates usually will have some weird results. And yeah, if you told me both teams to score hit in this game here, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense right now, right?
Yeah.
Like, see, Seattle looks different. Montreal is running back to their old system. And then you can't beat the price, right? Like, I wouldn't want to spend much juice on this, but this is your typical -110. So I don't hate it, man. If this is where your gut is, if this is how you're seeing it on this type of slate, it makes
Yeah.
sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. And pretty much everything you said, like, went through my process as well, when looking at this one. So it's just weird slate. At the end of the show, I want to kind of spitball a couple of games back and forth, because there was a couple other ones that were almost equally as weird, but I almost played. And by the time the end of the week rolls around, you never know, what kind of mood am I in on Saturday. But it's one of those slates, brother. It really is. All right. Next one. And I'll preface this one by saying I had this one written down in my notes too. So I think we're seeing this one through the same eyes.
So this is the lone Sunday game, Sporting KC hosting the Portland Timbers. And I'm just going to be on the simple over 2.5 here. So -132. Little juicy, not too bad, but y'all know on the show I try not to give out a ton of juice. But again, weirder slate. I'm going with some plays that I'm much more comfortable with, that I think hold some value, even if they're a little pricier than normal. And then where to begin, man? I mean, Portland defense hasn't been good. And like, this is something we thought was going to be good, right? You go out, you get Kamal Miller, you get Crepeau, 2 of the better guys at their respective positions, and the defense is just trash, man. 1.75 expected goals against right now. That's including last week where they had 3.17 expected goals against, versus Vancouver. And Vancouver has been struggling to create so far this season. I love Vancouver. I think that team is talented, but they have really had a hard time creating to start the season.
Yeah.
And they absolutely just blew the doors off Portland, from a chance creation standpoint last week. It was good to see. And then you had McGraw subbed at halftime. I'm still digging into that. I mean, they were down 2-0, but I don't think McGraw gets subbed for a formation change or anything like that. Like, nothing really changed on that front. So I'm waiting to see what was up. Was it a precautionary sub? We don't get like official injury reports until Friday, and even then, it could still just say questionable.
Mhm.
So for right now, I'm marking him down as questionable for me. And if he's not in, well, then great. That's another starting center back down for Portland in a game where I need goals.
Yeah.
And then you look at Portland's attack, where you got J Rod. Now he's got more time to generate more chemistry. Went a full 90 last week. Didn't do a whole lot, but he's going to. That I expected that, right? I didn't expect him to look as good in the first game where it only went 30 minutes. I so oh no, he started that game. Sorry, 60 minutes or something like that. But I didn't expect him to look as good as he did in that first match, and so it's going to take time to grow. But it's not as big of a jump for me from Liga MX to MLS, as far as physicality and stuff like that. So I expect him to get better. He's obviously the best 9 they've had in a while, even at this stage in his career. And then I've got Sporting finding their scoring boots with, if you look at their last 3 games alone, 2 and 3 goals scored, which is good to see from a team that also is struggling to create here early in the season. So I'm just going to over 2.5, though, not both teams to score over 2.5 or anything like that. With Portland being on the road and with terrible coaching, I don't know, man, they could implode and concede 3 themselves. I am watching for Fontes and Polito. They are questionable. They didn't play last week. But even when they didn't play last week, KC still put up 3 on Toronto, in Toronto. So
Yeah.
a really good performance from them. KC has to be full of confidence right now. I'm feeling good. And Portland goes into every game now knowing they have to score. Like that defense is not going to bail them out in any way. And so I'm getting a playable over 2.5 here, on a beautiful Sunday. I think this is the move.
Yeah, this one was so simple for me. It almost scares me a little bit, just because you know games have been going over for Portland, and they've been going clean over, and they haven't been lucky overs either. The Portland defense has just been really bad, and since Jonathan Rodriguez has arrived from Club America, the attack has looked a little more lethal. Um, let's see, did Anthony Alves? Oh, he's good. Okay. He left with like an injury tag 2 games ago, but he was back in it last game, so he's good. Um, yeah, so I like the over here too. If I was going to play this, I want the over 2.5 because you definitely could see a 2-1 here, as opposed to the 2.75. I had the exact same angle written down in my notes. I like that this is the Sunday game. This is a fun place to watch a game, the way that these 2 teams have been playing. You also talked about how Sporting Kansas City has kind of turned on the attack and kind of found their shooting boots last couple games. So definitely like this one a lot. Might end up being on it myself. Like I said, had a pretty strong lean on this one, but that concludes our official plays. There's a couple more, like we mentioned, like this is a funky slate. So I think there's a couple games that would be fun to talk about. Obviously El Trafico,
Yes.
should be talked
And
about. Yeah.
And like I know last week's game was disappointing with the Galaxy, but when we played it early in the week, I said like weather's an issue here, right? This is why I'm not going big on it. I'm taking it at this price now because it's probably the cheapest it's going to be. That was the cheapest it was that whole week. And then as soon as I got out there, the field was waterlogged. Like that ball just stopped. It didn't travel. Even getting an early goal for Galaxy, I was like, this is going to be a struggle to see out. The field, the conditions were just bad.
Right.
So, but again, that's a spot where if you get it early, CLV saves you some coin.
I'm not a huge fan of where LAFC is right now, just because it's so obvious. Look, they're still talented, but it's so obvious that they're missing the DPs that haven't arrived yet, right? Like, and even still, they dropped 5 on Nashville at home. But I just feel like this game, I almost feel like LAFC puts 2 or 3 in here at home on Galaxy, because I still think
Oh, it's
that
the Galaxy defense. I mean,
yeah,
on any given day, anyone can put 2 or 3 on Galaxy defense.
correct.
You give me a set piece, I have a half decent chance of scoring against the Galaxy. They can't guard set pieces to save their lives.
Right.
But I do. I mean that it's unfortunate that was against my Nashville side, but that score line was brewing for LAFC for weeks. It was just you don't want to jump on it and be wrong, right? So you're just sitting on it, waiting, and trying to time the market, so to speak. But they were going to explode on somebody. And then now, dude, yeah, I think that team is full of confidence. They needed a game like that to get going.
I saw somebody dropped a question. I think last week we did kind of like a re-announcement of Giroud to LAFC being a done deal from the Twitter handle there, and somebody said like if Giroud, once he steps foot at LAFC, are they immediately the favorite to win the West? Because the West is
Yeah,
pretty
I
wide
guess.
open, right?
I guess, yeah. Like, I don't, I don't know. There's other teams that still have DP spots too. Like, I think Portland still has one, maybe.
Yep.
Now, not that Portland's going to be good, but
Right.
I mean, yeah, like it's
None of the Texas
that
teams are good.
no. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
they probably are the favorite to win the West.
It's probably them and
And like,
Galaxy.
no, yeah. See, here's the thing, man. Like Galaxy's defense won't let them win anything this year. I promise. Like that, it is bad. And like when you have to score 3 or 4 goals a game to
Yeah.
win, that's going to be an issue. And like I said, I'm just writing off last week. Last week, no one could move the ball. Peck's goal, while it was great, the ball just died in the box right at his feet. And
Right.
like he hammered it home. But yeah, I just had to write that off as far as Galaxy keeping a clean sheet, only scoring 1 goal, just one of those anomaly games. But no, El Trafico is I mean, it's El Trafico. Like I really don't know how else to describe it except saying it's El Trafico because there's just always the large potential for goals here. I went ahead and fired on both teams to score in over 2.5 earlier in the week because that I just assume that line is going to move, right? And like everyone that I need to be good is good right now for that game. So
Well,
yeah, goals there.
this is a little monotonous, I guess, but we did this last year. I'm going to do it again. These are the El Traficos since 2018 until now. 4-3, 2-2, 1-1, 3-2, 3-3, 5-3, 6-2, 2-0, 3-0, 2-1, 2-1, 3-3, 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, 3-2, 3-2, 2-0, 2-1, and 4-2. So this is the best rivalry in Major League Soccer for a reason. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's the best matchup in MLS. Period.
Yeah.
And now the Galaxy have arguably the best attack they have had since LAFC came into the league.
I agree. Okay, next one I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on because I know the way I'm feeling. Kind of, it's just a little bit funky. NYCFC hosting Atlanta. This
Under
game,
2.5. It was on my pad.
I agree. I agree. However, the game is at City Field, so it's not at Yankee Stadium. I checked StubHub or whatever. Little more space, a little more wiggle room for that Atlanta attack, but the Atlanta attack has been night and day home and away this year. Like
The whole team, not just this year, in their entire existence.
Yeah.
Even the year they won it all, the road Atlanta just wasn't very good. And yeah, NYCFC unders are great right now.
Gravy.
And I'm not going to sweat the Atlanta attack. Also, I expect him to play, but Giacomakis is day-to-day technically right now.
Ooh, that's big.
So I do expect him to play, but there is an outside chance that he's either on the bench or they might rest him. I don't know. But he is technically day-to-day right now. So yeah, no, that I under 2.5 almost made the show.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. All right. Next one. Can I get away with fading Houston Dynamo once this season? Like, is it going to happen, or are they going to get red cards?
I wouldn't do it against Chicago. We said this in I think it was the Futures show or whatever. Like after they announced Kuipers, there's no one to give him service. And even as much as I like Brian Gutierrez, he's not a true 10. He needs to be out on the wing or running as like almost as a shadow striker at times and stuff like that. Like that's where he's better at. He's not a 10. And so
Gotcha.
Kuipers is not performing well because he's not getting service. You would think GMs would do this research before they go and pay $12 million for a guy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Kuipers is a bad buy. I'm just saying like he is who he is. And if you get him the ball, he will score, but you have to set him up. And the Fire don't do that. Also, that Fire defense is the other team. When I was talking about 2 of the top 3 worst defenses when we took that parlay, the Fire are the 3rd team. So,
Okay.
I don't want to bank on the. I looked at both teams to score there. Even though I don't love anything about the Dynamo, but I don't think this is the week to fade them. I don't want to back them necessarily, but the Fire are too sketch right now for me to actually put any money on them in any way outside of, I mean, like I said, maybe both teams to score. If you want to take a value shot, then there's value on Houston here based on just the numbers we have for the Fire. But no, I'm going to sit that game out.
Okay, that's fair. Those 3 were pretty much all I got. As far as additional
Ucho
and looks.
Ucho and crew.
Yeah, what's happening?
I don't know, man. Team policy is all Nancy is saying, and like, while I appreciate that Nancy like says something because he's always been kind of upfront with like injuries, like oh they're injured, oh it's just rest. And in this case, like he's saying team policy. So obviously some rules, something was broken, right? And it was big enough for him to have to sit out the Champions Cup match. Like that's a big deal. It's been a 2-game ban basically right now. We'll see if that carries over into this weekend. And if it does, you've got DC United sitting at plus 400 right now. I don't want that money line, but now that makes the +1, which is playable, appealing. Absolutely. Now for DC United, I still want more news on Herrera. I think they need him. Like he's very important to the way they play when they just want to send it crosses left and right. And I just don't have updated information on him, right? So we'll have to see if he's in or not. But no, DC United, if no Cujo, Columbus has a very tough game in Mexico midweek. No, DC are 100% live dogs in that situation.
I agree. Yeah, the Cucho thing is weird. Not much information getting out either. I think they asked Nancy, and he was like, basically, we just played a game. Why are you asking me about this? I don't want to talk about it. So, I mean, like you said, got to be a big deal to sit the best goal scorer in the league. So, all righty. Well, that's going to do it. And Ashley, tuning in as always, says she's going to take that Galaxy team total at plus 163, which that's a nice price. I don't blame you. But yeah, final reminder to like the video. Does us a lot of good if you're tuning in. We really appreciate it. 3 official plays. Let me run them one more time at the bottom before we close it out. Starting off with Charlotte team total over 0.5 and combining that with Philadelphia Union team total over 0.5. Late game on Saturday, the latest game, Seattle Sounders and Montreal, both teams to score at a nice -110. And then the Sunday game, the standalone Sunday, Sporting Kansas City and Portland Timbers over 2.5, -132. So that's going to do it. And
somebody asked about to score or assist props.
Okay.
Typically, like I don't have great lines for that until about 48 hours out from the weekend. And one issue for me is in the MLS, it's that is usually so concentrated that you just don't get great lines. Like, for instance, FanDuel would never have Hani Mukhtar's lineup to score or assist. Like they just didn't offer it. Like it was going to be juiced as all get out, but they just didn't even offer it. Another one that's usually typically juiced, Ryan Gold for Vancouver. That's like somebody I look at a lot. Always juiced or not available. So you just don't get great 2 score or assist lines on a lot of books, at least domestic books, for MLS. And even then, rarely am I playing that with any juice, right? Like if I can't get that at plus money, I usually just pass over it. So you're almost better off looking for those goal scorers and playing those as straights and actually trying to get some value there as opposed to score or assist. And that's just MLS. There, European leagues, you're going to find some value there for sure, and to score or assist. Props are just a little slower on the US side in terms of finding the value there.
Yep. Alrighty, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, and make sure you're following us on Twitter at MLS Live Podcast. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday, same time as always.
Best of
Bye,
luck.
guys.